welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry, and we're going to be talking about Barry Season 3, Episode number 4. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. Leave a like, leave a comment. We're going to be talking about the show every single week as it airs. Spencer's not with us. He's typically on these. He had something come up. He should be on next week's episode. Also, Big Sky, we didn't get our episode up this week. If you're listening to those reviews, we will have a season finale review up at least by Monday evening, so look out for that. But man, Fuchs. I want to start with Fuchs. He's so evil. He's so brilliant, and I somewhat think I know where this is going. I'm curious to what your thoughts are. We haven't talked about this at all. But so it appears Fuchs is going to all the people that Barry has, assassinated during his time as an assassin, and basically pitting them against Barry. Now, I wasn't. They showed the address. I wasn't sure if that was Barry's address or someone, or Mr. Cousineau's address. I was thinking, like, what exactly is Fuchs planning? But clearly, he's pitting them against Barry in some way. And we'll see how that develops. We get the mother and son at the end buying a firearm, discussing, that they're going to do something. Now, I'm assuming this is going to lead to the police are going to get involved at some point by the end and be like, oh shit, the Raven is doing crazy stuff. But yeah, what did you think about what it appears Fuchs' plan is?
Yeah, it seems to be that he's going to have all these amateur, non-hitmen, these people with no real experience in what they do, trying to attack and kill Barry. So you have all these family members and associates of Barry's former targets coming after him. And it's and given that it's a dark comedy, but it's a comedy, I think it'll make for a lot of humor in the show, and the show's needed some levity. So, I think it'll bring this back to that classic Barry feel, because we got very dark, and so I feel this is where we ebb into more of a humorous aspect of the show. But like you said, Fuchs is a hell of a con man, because who would have thought to do this? And then even if he does kill these people, he's going to use that against Barry. He's going to use that to weigh on his conscience.
Oh yeah. It's amazing because going back to the first season, it didn't appear that he was going to be that big of a player like Fuchs, and yet he was throughout season 1. And then in season 2, I was like, okay, what more can they do with him? And yet he was central, main focus all the way up to the finale. And now yet again, season 3, he is a constant sort of antagonist. And yeah, I did not expect that as far as when the show started.
Yeah, same here. And it makes you wonder. It's like what is the end goal for Barry in this season? Like, is he gonna be after Fuchs? Is Fuchs gonna survive until next season? Which he probably will, because he's crafty. He's proven that all throughout the series. And I do not see him and Barry reconciling. But then again, I didn't see. This show really hits you with some angles, honestly. So it could happen. They could make some sort of uneasy peace that leads into the next season.
Pretty much what we thought was going to happen with Mr. Cousineau somewhat happened in this episode, with the exception of the money at the end. I didn't expect that. But as far as his performance leading to executives saying, wow, what a great guy, and it leading to him getting more work, that's exactly what played out in this episode. But more importantly, his reputation in Hollywood is becoming positive. A story about him working with a veteran, Barry, has gone out, and so throughout the course of the episode, all of a sudden, his whole image has flipped, and now he's sort of becoming this sort of underground talk of the town, and which is something he's wanted for a long time. And on top of that, at the end, Barry sort of makes amends with him, hands him a large amount of cash, to get on his feet, and that's where that storyline's left. So my assumption is he will continue to do well, and at some point him and Barry are going to need to team up for some reason, not sure what, and that'll be what closes the season and maybe goes into the next season. But like I said, this we sort of called that. Any thoughts on Mr. Kusino?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's exactly like we said it was. You know, he's so tied to Barry now. You know, given that performance, given the article and everything, you know, that it's almost like even if he does manage to expose Barry, you know, at a certain point, it's going to be like, well, you seem a little guilty too, given how close you two seem to be. You know, that you turned this life around, and then all of a sudden this murder happens. You know, of your fiance. Did you coax him into doing this? You know, because you guys are awfully close. So it may be an uneasy alliance because and also because of what you mentioned earlier, and I think you were implying, because Fuchs may have partially pinned this on Kusino to some degree, the murders that Barry's committed. So these amateurs may not be going after Barry, they may be going after Kusino.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. Well, my thought is if Fuchs knows that Barry has a sort of a connection with Kusino, and if he could destroy that, that would hurt Barry. And so that's where I was thinking that. Plus, they highlighted an address when he was talking to the family. I don't know what the hell Barry's address is. So I was like, why are they spotlighting this address? And then I was thinking, maybe it's Kusino's address
Mm-hmm.
or his son's address or what, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That was something that I wasn't sure about. So that's sort of where I was thinking it might be going, because I can't think of any other, what other place would Fuchs know? Um,
Well,
as far,
yeah.
you know,
Well, yeah, I was thinking to myself too, like, man, I feel like an idiot too, trying to figure out if that's Barry's place. I'm like, I don't know what that looks like. Yeah, I don't know what his address is. You know, like how would I know what the significance of this place is, especially with the aerial Google Maps view that they gave us? You know, just never be able to figure it out. You know, but assume that the next shot would pan to it, and it didn't really. So it's still kind of vague as to what's happening.
the other big storyline, we'll get to the the Bolivians and all that, but sort of the Sally stuff. Yet again, I've been extremely impressed with what they've done with the character, and so far this season, we had her big speech that she gave at the premiere. I love that she sort of didn't know what to say. She had a script, but it wasn't working. She had been working on it for a couple of days, but as she's saying it, it's just not clicking with the audience, and so she relies on sort of what you would say in wrestling, the cheap pop. We're 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, and so I liked all that. But more importantly, as that ended, she's confronted by the young actress she works with, and basically she tells her, "Look, you're repeating the cycle. You're in a bad relationship." She has that moment of clarity, and in the end, she tells Barry, "We're done. We're breaking up." Barry doesn't take it well, but then she walks off, which is very interesting because I didn't quite expect that to happen at this point, and I don't know what happens next as far as those two characters. Um, any thoughts on where that's going, or where's the Sally story going? Because it's been very interesting, and I really don't know how it plays into the bigger picture.
I feel like it'll involve Barry trying to prove that he's not that guy, that he's not the same as her ex, that he's not putting her in the same scenario, that he's just literally oblivious to how to deal with other human beings on a personal level, and that maybe there's a bit of trauma there from the war and everything. It'll be Barry trying to win her back and prove that he's a different guy than the previous guy to some degree. Otherwise, like you said, I'm not quite sure how it fits if that's not the case. Oh, it just hit me. Yeah, what if that is Barry's apartment that we were looking at, but it's their shared apartment is the thing. And if he moves out and he leaves her with it, you're gonna have these people trying to go to that house and kill Barry, but she's there. She's the only one living there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, so he may actually, trying to help her, wind up making himself look worse, honestly.
definitely possible. I'm curious to how like I said, the show is sort of two shows. We have the Hollywood stuff, and then we have the underworld assassin stuff. Kusino, I think, is going to get more acting gigs. I think, we're going to get more of that. Sally, she's got this show. It appears like it's going to be a hit. Is Barry going to get more acting gigs as well? Like, you had said something, I think, last week to the effect of, wouldn't it be interesting if some of this stuff comes out to a degree, but they can't really prove it? So this, Barry is sort of known as this killer, but Hollywood uses that.
Yeah.
And he has a career as an actor, but there's always this like, oh shit, is he a murderer as well?
Well, yeah, because you get, like big Hollywood scandals all the time that people forget about just for years, and and because nothing comes of it. And like you said, it may lead to success for him, or it may happen just as he's getting big. But much like in American Psycho, nothing may come of it. And it may perplex Barry that nothing's happened. People know, but it can't be proven, and it makes for a very different life for him.
We always had the stories of some of the older actors with ties to the mob, and there would always be these stories, but people would sort of laugh it off, even though there was clear evidence that certain actors had these ties, and even directors.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's possible for another season. The boy, the Fernando, Barry, Hank, Cristobal, all that stuff, man. So Barry's given the bomb, and asked to blow up the Bolivians, and they do this whole funny gag where it's connected to an app, and to me, that whole thing was just showing how much of a pain in the ass. Everything we buy now has some kind of electronic component that's controlled through an app through your phone, and it fucks up. And it's so true. I mean, you can go buy a toy now, like certain action figures and stuff, and you have to download an app in order to activate the soundboard in them and stuff. Like, it's just the way it is. But anyways, I think that was sort of a ha-ha joke about that. But yeah, he gets the bomb, he plants it, can't get the app to work. Fernando basically lays out that he knew what was going on. I think you or Spencer, one of you suspected that.
Yeah, because he gave a look that just said that, and the way he paused before he said the thing about going to eat and everything just made it feel like, okay, Fernando, like, and yeah, me and Spencer pretty much agreed on that it seemed like he knew, he deep down, like maybe he knew something, and, he just confirmed it this episode.
And not only did he, he knew down to that it was Hank.
To the details, yes.
It's like you and Hank. And so, he's like, look, you can either go kill Hank, prove your loyalty, or, I'm going to kill you. And it's that, he runs out, which I thought was funny. And then, that's when the bomb goes off. Apparently everybody's killed. I mean, there could be survivors, who knows, but it leaves you with the idea that Fernando and his crew are dead. Cristobal leaves, Barry finds him, takes him to Hank, and, Hank thinks Barry. So there's a lot of elements there. There's a lot to unpack, because let's say Fernando and his crew are dead. Does Cristobal take over? What does Hank's guys think about this? Because I can't see Hank hiding the relationship with Cristobal any longer. Where does that go? Do the Bolivians send more people? We need to know what's up with Cristobal's wife. How much is she invested in the family business? Is that going to play a role this season or next season? So there's a lot of little things there, and I'm assuming as those things play out, that's when Barry will get pulled back in, because they'll probably need him for something. But yeah, where do you think it's going?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, because for one, Hank's got a little rebellion on his hands that we saw, like with his number 2 questioning him and saying that, oh, you seem awfully adamant that we not attack Cristobal, and kind of getting in his face. And they mentioned, I believe it was episode 1, that that they have more people coming in, that there's 11 more guys or something coming. So now Barry's going to have the opposite scenario, but with Hank's guys, and his number 2 is doubting him. So maybe his number 2's in charge of that, and he just took out, Cristobal's gang, and now he's going to take out Hank's gang again, maybe. And now we have a scenario where potentially, if any more backup comes from Bolivia, Cristobal, maybe even unbeknownst to him, could be in charge, like you're saying. So it's an interesting little reversal of back and forth. Now Barry has to kill Hank's guys. Like, but like you said, the most hilarious part about this little scenario is the app. You know, that was hilarious. Just listening to him on the phone with tech support, and the fact that it's just another thing that I think it's not only a critique of, you know, this modern BS that everything has to have an app now. It's definitely a critique of that, but I think it's also another thing to show us how incompetent Hank is and what he does, because he's entering in so much personal information.
I'm glad you brought that scene up, because that, you know, they're like, will you track everything I do, to improve our service? He's like, of course. And like, yeah, he's just clicking everything. Yeah.
He's making like the username B Berkman and stuff. And
there's a new toy out, very expensive, enterprise toy, basically. Looks really cool. I was looking at it. I don't know if I'll get it, but it's a little too pricey. Lights up, does all kind of cool stuff, but you have to download an app, and the app is how you control the effects and the sound and all that stuff. And it's funny, I just watched a review on it the other day, and so, you know, watching this episode made me laugh, because I'm like, yeah, everything has an app.
It is real intrusive, isn't it? You know, to the point where when I bought my dryer and everything, I was like, okay, well, how do I activate this heat setting? Oh, well, you have to sync it up with the app. And like, it's a dryer. I should press the light's right there. There should be a button next to it, and I should just be able to press the button.
Yeah. And like you said, the tech support was great. She's like, well, turn off the Wi-Fi.
Turn off the Wi-Fi. Yeah, turn on the Bluetooth. Turn off the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Trying to think, was there? I should have wrote them down. There were some other little jokes. I can't remember. I think at the premiere there were a few funny moments. Like I said, the Rotten Tomatoes stuff cracked me up.
There were a lot of good jokes in this one.
But yeah, all around, yeah, like I said, another solid episode. Very curious to where it's going. It has been a darker season, or, you know, a little more depressing, but
yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I know what the through line is going to be to next season, because we have this whole Raven story, right? You know, that the police think Fuchs is the Raven, and now Fuchs has pitted these people against Barry, and so it's gonna, like, what's gonna propel Barry to fame is stopping Fuchs, and it's gonna
stopping the Raven.
Stopping the Raven, yeah. The Barry, it'll be like Raven, the Barry Berkman story, and that'll be his show next season.
Holy shit, you might be right. Yeah, I could see that. Well, I can see if any of these people, you know, end up with the police, and they're just like, well, who's the guy? You know, because he had a little calling card, literally. Mm-hmm. He was giving them, and they're like, well, what did the guy look like? And they'll show a picture, and they'll point. They'll be like, that was him. And they're like, oh my God, it's the Raven.
It's the Raven. His fingers are everywhere.
Oh, man.
Barry's going to get a show out of this.
He's like in prison. The Chechnyans break him out. They start to believe the Raven.
The mythos, right? Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing that keeps Hank in power. He's like, I'm going to send the Raven after you guys. After his another two is dead, he'll be able to use that if that happens. You know, he's like, yeah, the Raven works for me. You know, guys better stay in line. They're going to know him as this Chechnyan assassin. And it is known that Hank put him on a plane, you know, to go to Chechnya and everything, that he was the guy that he sent over there. So if his old crew isn't alive, whoever, you know, shows back up in LA, they'll believe the myth.
Yeah, dude. They did to spend that much time building up the Raven. I mean, it was a funny joke, but
it's going to be used.
When it was happening, especially the way the police, when they confronted Cousineau and basically was regurgitating everything Hank said about him and saying, oh, well, that's the Raven. He's this, he's that. It was like, okay, that's the story they have. That's the one they believe, and it's going to carry through. And that's going to be his reputation. But yeah, it's going to be great. But yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because even if anybody like, yeah, Barry Berkman's a psychopath. He's a crazy guy. Like he had to be to stop the Raven. People like him, you know. Because even if Barry is implicated in the way, they'll be like, well, the Raven manipulated him the way he manipulated these people. You know, Barry was afraid of the Raven. So even if anything does come out, he could just pin it on Fuchs.
The Raven uses civilians to do
Yeah.
his bidding.
This poor traumatized vet, Barry Berkman. Yeah.
Damn. You heard it first, everyone. That's what we think's going to happen. But yeah, great episode. Anything else?
No, I was just saying, we said it today. It'll be on IGN tomorrow.
It'll be a full article. But yeah, like I said, Spencer should be back next week. I think we'll have the Big Sky finale review should be up Monday evening, and then Barry should probably go up Tuesday. So look out for that. There's a lot of shows coming up that we're all going to be watching. So Westworld's coming up. The Boys is coming up. Only Murders in the Building, which so excited for that. Go check out our review for season 1. It's up on the channel. All that's coming up in like a month. So look out for that stuff. But yeah, I think I'm done. So appreciate everyone listening. Bye.
Stay woke.